is broken into 2 volumes. And Prabhu was explaining how the whole Antya Leela we can divide into 2 sections or 2 parts. The first part, chapters 1 to 13 of Antya Leela, talks about Mahaprabhu's exemplary dealings with different of his devotees. So in the first 13 chapters, each chapter will primarily focus on Mahaprabhu's very wonderful dealings with a particular associate or devotee of his. And this chapter which we're reading now, the first chapter, Antya Leela, particularly focuses on Mahaprabhu's dealings with Srila Rupa Goswami. And in the next chapter, we'll see Mahaprabhu's another amazing dealings with another devotee, and same with third chapter, 4 until chapter 13. And then from chapter 14 to 20, the second half of Antya, the second portion of Antya Leela, we'll talk about Mahaprabhu's ecstatic symptoms of love of Godhead. So all of that will be in detail discussed in the second half of Antya Leela. So, continuing on, so now we're in Antya Leela, chapter 1, text number 8. All glories to Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all glories to Lord Nityananda, all glories to Advaita Acharya, and all glories to all the devotees of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Yesterday in the opening 7 verses, we saw before Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is starting to narrate Antya Leela, how he's offering his obeisances, his prayers, his respects unto different personalities. First, he offers obeisance to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, saying that I offer my obeisance to Lord Mahaprabhu, by whose mercy even a lame man can cross over a mountain and a dumb man can recite Vedic literature. And then he offers his obeisances to the Vaishnavas, saying that, the Vaishnavas, their association, their Sangha is just like my walking stick. And then he offers his obeisances in 3 and 4 to the 6 Goswamis, saying that I offer my obeisance to them by taking shelter of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. All the impediments, all the obstacles that one might be faced with in their practice of bhakti will be destroyed. So any challenge, any obstacle we have, we can follow in the footsteps of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, we can beg for the mercy of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. So we have a picture of them on our altar also. And Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is saying, by taking shelter of the 6 Goswamis, whatever impediments are there in our practice of bhakti will be destroyed. And secondly, whatever spiritual desires we have will be fulfilled by the mercy of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. And then he offers his obeisances to Radha Madan Mohanji, to Radha Govindaji, to Radha Gopinathji, the deities in charge of Sambandha, Abhidaya, Prayojana of the practice of bhakti. And now, in text 8, we are seeing him offering his obeisances to Mahaprabhu and all of his associates. So we'll see the same pattern in every chapter of Caitanya Caritamrta, that before he starts narrating or discussing a particular chapter, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami will always start off by offering prayers and offering obeisances onto different personalities. So from his example, we can learn that whenever we take up anything in our spiritual lives, before doing that, we should always take the blessings, offer some prayers to Guru, Krishna and the Vaishnavas. And we should understand, we should have that feeling of dependency, that I can't do it on my own endeavor. I need the mercy of my spiritual masters, I need the mercy of Shri Shri Radha Gopinath, and I need the mercy of all the Vaishnavas. Which is kind of opposite to what we've all grown up in. In modern society, it's the other way around. If modern society teaches us to be very independent, you should stand up on your own 2 feet, you should get good grades, you should have a job, you should be self-sustaining, If someone is dependent on others, then that's looked very lowly, that's looked down upon in mature society. The more independent you are, the more you can do things yourself, the more great of a personality you are. But in spiritual life, it's the opposite. In spiritual life, more one feels he's dependent on the mercy of Guru and Krishna and the Vaishnavas, the more advanced he is. And that's what we're seeing with Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. Although he's so advanced, he's such a great elevated devotee of the Lord, he's a Nityasiddha devotee of the Lord, still he is feeling so dependent on the mercy of the Vaishnavas. And the analogy he uses is an analogy we can all remember. It's a very powerful analogy. He's saying that in text 2 of Antya Leela, right in the second verse, he's saying that the association, he's saying that I am blind and my feet are slipping again and again. Therefore, may the saints help me by granting me the stick of their mercy as my support. So he's saying, my position is such that I'm blind, I don't know where I'm going, I don't know what's the right way to go. And my feet are slipping again and again. I'm old and crippled, I can't walk properly. So I need some support, I need a walking stick. And he's saying that the Sangha of all the Vaishnavas, they're like my walking stick. Without the help of the walking stick of the Vaishnavas, I can't move forward. I'll just be stagnant, I'll just be here. So this analogy we can always remember, that we're just like old, invalid, crippled persons when it comes to practicing bhakti, which means on our own endeavor, we can't make much progress. We need the support of the Vaishnavas. Just like someone is very old and invalid, without his walking stick, he can maybe take a few steps, a couple of steps, maybe he can move a couple of meters forward, but because of his condition, after some time, he'll lose his energy, or he'll trip, or he'll fall over. So in the same way, without the association of the Vaishnavas, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is explaining, without the Sangha of the Vaishnavas, we can't progress very far in bhakti. We need that support, we need that walking stick to continue on. And if we don't have the walking stick, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is explaining, that inevitably, in the future, we'll fall down. Because of our weakly condition, we'll try to progress on our own strength in bhakti, but after some time, because we don't have the support of the Vaishnavas, we'll slip and we'll trip over and we fall. And that's what we see in 5th canto of Bhagavatam with the example of Bharat Maharaj. Bharat Maharaj was practicing bhakti, but he didn't have the association of Vaishnavas. He was practicing bhakti by himself, so he didn't have that walking stick of Sadhu Sangha. So because he didn't have the walking stick, he was practicing bhakti, but because there was no support, he fell down by attachment to a deer. So the same thing Bhagavatam explains can happen to us if we're not practicing bhakti with the Sangha of the devotees. If we don't have that support, we don't have the support of the walking stick, which is the Sangha of the Vaishnavas, inevitably we'll fall down. So this humble Vaishnava mood that Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami shows or displays practically in Caitanya Caritamrta is something we can always carry. That no matter what we're doing in life, whether it's our job, something to do with our family, our work, changing locations, going to another country, anything. Before we endeavor in any particular task in life, we should always take the blessings of our spiritual masters, take the blessings of Sri Sri Radha Gopinath, tell them, okay, this is what I'm planning to do. Can you please bless me? Can you please guide me in this endeavor? And take the blessings of the Vaishnavas. Reveal our heart to senior Vaishnavas, say that, okay, this is what I'm planning to do. What do you think about it? Can I please get your blessings? And this way, any particular activity we do in our lives, we should always understand that on our own endeavor, we can never be successful. We're completely dependent on the mercy of others. We're dependent on the mercy of our Guru, Sri Sri Radha Gopinath, and the Vaishnavas. Okay, we'll continue. Text number 9. I have briefly described the pastimes of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, known as the Madhya Lila. Now I shall attempt to describe something about his last pastimes, which are known as the Antya Lila. Text 10. I have briefly described the Antya Lila within the description of the Madhya Lila. Text 11. I am now almost an invalid because of old age, and I know that at any moment I may die. Therefore, I have already described some portions of the Antya Lila. So if you remember, at the start of Madhya Lila, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he gives the whole summary of Madhya Lila, and along with giving a whole summary of Madhya Lila, he also gives a whole summary of Antya Lila also. And why does he do this? He's explaining here again that when he was writing Caitanya Caritamrta, he was very, very advanced in age. Prabhupada was, in one of the purports, he explains that Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he was in his 90s when he started writing this book. So that's the time when, we pass away. But right at the last end of his life, he's taking up such an enormous task of writing such a literature like this. And he himself is writing at the start of Caitanya Caritamrta that as he's trying to write this book in his 90s, his fingers are trembling, his hands are trembling as he's trying to scribe the Bengali. And he's saying that, I'm becoming blind, my hands are shivering, I don't know how I'll finish this. At any moment, I can just give up my body. At any moment, I can die. I'm in my 90s, any moment death can come and take me away. So because he was afraid of passing away before finishing the entire book, what he does, he gives a summary of the entire Antya Lila at the start of Madhya Lila. Because he wasn't sure whether he would live long enough to finish the whole Antya Lila in detail. And Prabhupada in his purport here in text 11, Prabhupada explains that he did the same thing following in the footsteps of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. Prabhupada is explaining in this purport, if you read, Prabhupada explains that Prabhupada was presented with the same situation. He was very advanced in age, in his 70s, when he started writing these books. And Prabhupada wasn't sure whether he would be present with us long enough to finish translating the entire Bhagavatam. And as we know, the main section of Bhagavatam is the 10th canto, which talks about all of Krishna's pastimes, which is the essence of Srimad Bhagavatam. So Prabhupada, just like Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he wasn't sure whether he would be present long enough to finish translating the entire Bhagavatam. Therefore, Prabhupada is saying that just like Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he gives a whole summary of Antya Lila in Madhya Lila, in the same way Prabhupada is writing, that following the footsteps of the previous acharyas, I'm also doing the same thing by giving Krishna book. What is Krishna book? Krishna book is the summary of the entire 10th canto. So Prabhupada is writing in the purport here that he was also unsure whether I would finish translating the whole Bhagavatam. So because he was afraid, Prabhupada said he wrote Krishna book, a summary of the 10th canto Bhagavatam, which is the essence of the entire Bhagavatam. So again, Prabhupada from his practical example, he's showing how as devotees, we should always be following in the footsteps of the previous acharyas. And that should be our mood. We shouldn't invent anything new. We should see what did our previous spiritual masters did, take inspiration from them, and follow in their footsteps. And we're seeing Srila Prabhupada doing the same thing here. Text 12. In accordance with the synopsis previously written, I shall describe in detail whatever I have not mentioned. Text 13. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu returned to Jagannath Puri from Vrindavan, Sarup Damodar Goswami immediately sent news of the Lord's arrival to the devotees in Bengal. So at the end of Madhya Lila, we've seen how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had left Jagannath Puri and traveled to Vrindavan. And now, in Antya Lila, we're seeing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu returning to Jagannath Puri from Vrindavan. Now, when this news comes, Sarup Damodar, he immediately sends this news to the devotees in Bengal. And that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has finally returned from Vrindavan. Now he's present in Jagannath Puri. All of you immediately come. You can take darshan. You can finally get the association of Mahaprabhu after so many months. So then the news goes out to the devotees of Bengal. Now we'll see how all the devotees in Bengal and nearby areas, now they all start going on pilgrimage to Jagannath Puri to get the association of Mahaprabhu. Text 14. Upon hearing this news, Mother Sachi and all the other devotees of Navadvip were very joyful, and they all departed together for Nilachal, Jagannath Puri. 15. Thus all the devotees of Kulinagram and Sri Khanda, as well as Advaita Acharya, came together to meet Sivananda Sen. Sivananda Sen arranged for the journey. He maintained everyone and provided residential quarters. Okay, so previously we were saying how this first section of Antya Lila, each chapters 1 to 13, each chapter focuses on Mahaprabhu's exemplary dealings with one particular devotee. And we talked about how this chapter, chapter 1, talks about Mahaprabhu's dealings with Rupa Goswami. But before the whole pastime of Rupa Goswami will come, a small pastime or lila of Sivananda Sen will come. And that's what we're going to see now. So this lila involves Sivananda Sen, the devotees from Bengal, a dog, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Sivananda Sen, he's a very important devotee. And what is his role? What is his service? Whenever devotees from Bengal, usually devotees from Bengal, once a year, they would make a trip from Bengal to Jagannath Puri. They would attend the Ratha Yatra, spend time with Mahaprabhu, clean the Gundicha temple. That's when Gundicha Marjan chapter comes up. So they would clean the whole Gundicha temple. They would attend the whole Ratha Yatra, stay with Mahaprabhu some time. It's given for 3-4 months for the entire Chaturmasya. They would be present in Jagannath Puri and take the Sangha, Association Mahaprabhu, and participate in all the festivals that was going on in Jagannath Puri. And then they would return back to Bengal. But we saw at the end of Madhya Lila that Mahaprabhu, for a long time, he had gone away to Vrindavan. And now finally he's coming back. So when news of this gets back, now the devotees in Bengal, they're again making a trip to Jagannath Puri. And what's Sivananda Saint's role? He would personally arrange for all the devotees of Bengal to go from Bengal to Jagannath Puri. So we would, along the way, it was a long journey. In those days, there wasn't any direct train or flight by which one can just fly from Bengal straight to Jagannath Puri. So one had to walk. And along the way, there would be many toll points. And then they would have to cross many rivers. And to cross the river, again, there will be boatmen, and you have to pay the toll to cross the river. So what Sivananda Saint would do, he would arrange to get the devotees through all these toll points. He would pay all the toll charges. And he would also make arrangements for accommodation. Because it's not just like a day trip. In one day, they walk from Bengal to Jagannath Puri. It would take many days. So then naturally, they need somewhere to sleep at night time. So Sivananda Saint, he would arrange accommodation for all the devotees of Bengal. And it's not that just a handful of devotees were going. Many, many devotees from Bengal, you can imagine. So many dear, close associates of Mahaprabhu, Navadvip Dham, they would all travel to Jagannath Puri. And Sivananda Saint, for so many dozens and dozens of devotees, he would personally arrange accommodation, and he will also arrange prasadam for all the devotees. He was doing a very important service. He was personally arranging all the accommodation, and he was personally arranging all the prasadam for all the Vaishnavas, and he would personally direct them, show them the right way, take them through all the toll points. So in this way, Sivananda Saint, he got a lot of blessings, mercy from all the Vaishnavas of Bengal. Okay, so text 16, Sivananda Saint arranged for the journey. He maintained everyone and provided residential quarters. 17, while going to Jagannath Puri, Sivananda Saint allowed a dog to go with him. He supplied it food to eat and maintained it. So now a dog comes into the picture. So every year they're going to Jagannath Puri to meet Mahaprabhu from Bengal. But this year what happens? A dog just comes and joins the group, just starts following the group. So there's this whole, you can imagine, a whole group of pilgrims going from Bengal to Jagannath Puri, led by Sivananda Saint. And a dog, by some good fortune, by some sukriti, he just starts following all the devotees. The devotees are going one way, and this dog just starts following the devotees. Then Sivananda Saint, seeing this dog following him and all the other devotees, he takes pity, he takes compassion upon this dog, and he allows the dog to continue with him. Not only that, he personally accommodates the dog. Not only does Sivananda Saint arrange the prasadam for all the devotees, but he also arranges his servants to also arrange prasadam for the dog. So he's not seeing the dog as just some dirty animal, but he's seeing this dog as a Vaishnava. He's seeing this dog as he's looking inside and seeing the soul of the dog. He's seeing this dog is following us. He's also a great devotee of Mahaprabhu. And as the servant of Mahaprabhu, it is my duty to serve this dog also. So in this way, we'll see now how Sivananda Saint would personally take care of this dog also as part of his traveling party. Text 18. One day, when they needed to cross a river, an Orisian boatman would not allow the dog to get in the boat. Sivananda Saint, unhappy that the dog had to stay behind, paid the boatman 10 pana of conch shells to take the dog across the river. So one time, so as they're going, it's mentioned they had to cross the river, and the boatman who was in charge at that time said that, I can't take this dog across. This dog is a dirty creature. What are you guys thinking, asking for this dog to travel across? Then Sivananda Saint, he becomes very unhappy that the dog can't go, because he's not seeing it just as another ordinary dog. He's seeing it as, he's seeing himself as a servant of the dog. This dog is part of my party, part of the party of devotees who are all going on pilgrimage. I'm his servant, I must take care of him. So then Sivananda Saint, he convinces the boatman by giving him 10 pana of conch shells. So in the purport, Prabhupada is explaining that previously, I'll read the purport. 1 pana is 80 kadis or small conch shells. Formerly, even 50 or 60 years ago, there was no paper currency in India. Coins were generally made not of base metal but of gold, silver and copper. In other words, the medium of exchange was really something valuable. 4 pieces of kadi make made 1 ganda, and 20 such gandas equaled 1 pana. This khadi was also used as a medium of exchange. Therefore, Sivananda Sain paid for the dog with dasa pana, or 80 times 10 pieces of khadi. In those days, 1 paisa was also subdivided into small conch shells. But at the present moment, the prices for commodities have gone so high that there is nothing one can get in exchange for only 1 paisa. With 1 paisa in those days, however, one could purchase sufficient vegetables to provide for a whole family. Even 30 years ago, vegetables were occasionally so inexpensive that 1 paisa's worth could provide for a whole family for a day. So Prabhupada is saying, even 30 years ago in India, if you just had 1 paisa, not even rupee, just 1 paisa. If you just had 1 cent, 1 paisa, with that 1 paisa, you could get enough vegetables to feed your whole family for a whole day. That's how cheap foodstuffs were, just 30 years ago. But now, Prabhupada is saying, things have gone up so high. Now, just to buy something as simple as capsicum, it's like $7 a kilo, $8 a kilo, broccoli, again, $7 a kilo. The only thing cheap you can find is like potatoes. You can get a kilo of potato for $2. That's the only thing. Everything else, zucchini, capsicum, broccoli, super expensive now. But in those days, Prabhupada is saying, you just have 1 paisa, not even 1 rupee, 1 paisa, that's enough to buy enough vegetables for a whole day, for a whole family. So as Kali Yuga progresses, we'll see how things will get more and more unbearable. Text 20. One day, while Sivananda Sain was detained by a tollman, his servant forgot to feed the dog its cooked rice. So this means that Sivananda Sain had personally given instructions to one of his servants that every day, along with feeding all the other Vaishnavas, you have to feed this dog also. This dog is also a Vaishnava. You should feed this dog cooked rice. But one day what happens? One day the servant of Sivananda Sain, he forgets to feed the dog his quota of cooked rice. Text 21. At night when Sivananda Sain returned and was taking his meal, he inquired from the servant whether the dog had gotten its meals. When he learned that the dog had not been supplied food in his absence, he was very unhappy. He then immediately sent 10 men to find the dog. So at night time, Sivananda Sain, he's personally taking his dinner, and while he's taking his dinner, he's thinking about the dog, and he's asking his servant, did you remember to feed the dog today? Did you give him his food? And then the servant says, no, actually today it completely escaped my mind, I forgot to feed the dog. Then Sivananda Sain, immediately he becomes unhappy, and just to find the dog, and then he asks to find the dog, and the dog has suddenly disappeared also. Then to find the dog, Sivananda Sain doesn't just send 1 man or 2 men to find the dog, but he sends 10 devotees to go out, 10 of his servants to go out and find the dog. That's how much care, love and attention Sivananda Sain was showing. Prabhupada one time he said that attention to detail is a sign of love. And Sivananda Sain, he's showing this. So his attachment to his dog, we shouldn't just see it as ordinary mundane attachment that people have to their pets, cats and dogs. But he's seeing this dog on the equal level with all the other Vaishnavas. Just like these are all Vaishnavas, devotees of Mahaprabhu, going to see Mahaprabhu. He's thinking this dog is also following us. This dog is also a Vaishnava going to see Mahaprabhu. So it is my duty to serve him. And he's so carefully remembering, has this dog been fed? Has this Vaishnava been fed? So through this, he's showing by his personal example how one should take responsibility in his devotional service. So as we progress in devotional service, we'll get assigned different services. We'll be given different responsibilities. And from Sivananda Sain, we should take lesson how very sincere we should be with whatever service we've been given. Really focus on all the details that everything is done. While he's personally taking his food at night, he's remembering, has this been done? Has that been done? What about the dog? Has the dog been fed? No, the dog hasn't been fed. Immediately find the dog. Where is the dog? Then they can't find the dog, then immediately Sivananda Sain, he becomes worried. And he sends immediately, not just 1, 2, 3 people, but 10 people to go search for the dog. So much, responsibility he's taking to do his service nicely for the sake of Mahaprabhu. So the same detail, that same sincerity we all need to have in whatever service we take up in our spiritual practice. Text 23. When the men returned without success, Sivananda Sain became very unhappy and fasted for the night. So Sivananda is saying he was so unhappy at not being able to find the dog, he fasted the whole night himself. So again, he's not just seeing it as another dog, he's seeing it as a Vaishnava. And he's thinking that I failed in my duty to Mahaprabhu. It is my duty to accommodate, to feed all the Vaishnavas, to make sure everything is nice for the Vaishnavas. But this one member of our party, I was unable to satisfy, shame upon me. And he's feeling so repentant that he fasts for the whole night. So this is the level of sincerity that Sivananda Sain has when it comes to his bhakti, when it comes to his service to Mahaprabhu. Text 24. In the morning they looked for the dog again, but it could not be found anywhere. All the Vaishnavas were astonished. I'll read the purport. Sivananda Sain's attachment to the dog was a great boon for that animal. The dog appears to have been a street dog. Since it naturally began to follow Sivananda Sain, while he was going to Jagannath Puri with his party, he accepted it into his party and maintained it in the same way he was maintaining the other devotees. It appears that although on one occasion the dog was not allowed aboard the boat, Sivananda Sain did not leave the dog behind but paid more money just to induce the boatman to take the dog across the river. Then when the servant forgot to feed the dog and the dog disappeared, Sivananda, being very anxious, sent 10 men to find it. When they could not find it, Sivananda observed a fast. Thus it appears that some or other Sivananda had become attached to the dog. As will be evident from the following verses, the dog got the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and was immediately promoted to Vaikuntha to become an eternal devotee. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has therefore sung, Tumita Kukur, Tumita Thakur, Tomara Kukur, Baliya Janaha More. He thus offers to become the dog of a Vaishnava. There are many other instances in which the pet animal of a Vaishnava was delivered back home, back to Vaikuntha, back to Godhead. Such is the benefit of somehow or other becoming the favorite of a Vaishnava. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has also sung, Kita Janma Hoy Yata Taya Dasa. There is no harm in taking birth again and again. Our only desire should be to take birth under the care of a Vaishnava. So Prabhupada in his purport is explaining that later on in this chapter we'll see how this dog, he ends up getting the personal association Mahaprabhu, and by getting the personal association Mahaprabhu, this dog, he actually goes back home, back to Godhead. And Prabhupada is making this point that the root cause of the deliverance of this dog is that some or other he got the mercy of a Vaishnava. And Prabhupada is writing that this is the secret to success. Some or other, if we can get the favor of a Vaishnava, some or other we can, by hook or crook, become the favorite of a particular devotee of the Lord. Then, because Krishna, he is subordinate to his devotees, if we become some or other very dear or a favorite of a Vaishnava, Prabhupada is explaining, we'll go back home, back to Godhead. If even a dog is going back to Godhead by becoming very dear to a Vaishnava, then Prabhupada says, what to speak of us humans? If we some or other can please a devotee of the Lord, then by the pleasure of the Vaishnava, we'll get the mercy of Mahaprabhu and we'll also all go back home, back to Godhead. So in this way, Prabhupada, he is quoting Bhaktivinoda Thakur, saying this is the mood in which Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he's singing some bhajans where he's saying that I'm willing to become a dog of a Vaishnava. I don't mind taking birth again and again. I don't mind even taking birth as an insect if I can be born in a Vaishnava's house. Because some or other, if you're attached to a Vaishnava, you go back home, back to Godhead. So that is the power of Sadhu Sangha. Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Shastra Koi, Lava Matra Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Siddhi Hoy. So the conclusion of all the Shastras is that by even a moment's association with sadhus, one can attain all perfection. And we're seeing that with the example of a dog in this chapter. Some or other, he became dear to Sivananda Sain, and by Sivananda Sain's association, we'll see how he'll go back home, back to Godhead. So then Prabhupada is saying that what should our mood be, what should our attitude be, is that we should just some or other look to please a Vaishnava. Look to please Srila Prabhupada. What are Prabhupada's desires, what we can do to please him. And if we can some or other just please Srila Prabhupada, then Shri Shri Radha Gopinath, they'll be obliged, they'll be forced to take us back home, back to Godhead. And I was just reading one pastime. One devotee was sharing how just very simple things please Srila Prabhupada. He was explaining how one time he was sitting in Srila Prabhupada's room, and he was waiting for Prabhupada to come. And while he was waiting, he was just reading Bhagavatam. He just had Bhagavatam open. He was reading 4th canto of Bhagavatam. And then suddenly Prabhupada just walks in. And then immediately this devotee says, oh, Prabhupada is here. This devotee, he offers dandavats to Prabhupada. And then Prabhupada accepts the obeisances. Then Prabhupada immediately looks at him and then asks this devotee, oh, I see you're reading one of my books. What book are you reading? And this devotee says that, Prabhupada, I'm reading 4th canto of Bhagavatam. And then this devotee mentions that Prabhupada had a big, huge smile on his face. And Prabhupada thanked him that, thank you for reading my books. Thank you, this is very nice. You continue on reading Srimad Bhagavatam. And this devotee was sharing the realization that just previously, he was out in the sun doing some work in the garden, sweating in 40-degree heat, and Prabhupada didn't say anything. But now he was just sitting and just reading Bhagavatam. And just by seeing him reading Bhagavatam, Prabhupada was taking so much pleasure. Prabhupada was getting so much happiness. So this devotee was sharing this realization that simple things like us taking shelter of Prabhupada's books, just reading Prabhupada's books, is enough to please Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada would get great pleasure when he would see his devotees, he would see his followers reading his books sincerely. Because Prabhupada used to wake up 1 o'clock in the morning every day and translate these books. So much sacrifice Prabhupada did to writing these books. So when Prabhupada is seeing us, when Prabhupada sees us actually opening these books and reading, then Prabhupada, he feels great pleasure. So in this way, we should look out and seek, what are the different desires Prabhupada had, what was Srila Prabhupada's moods, what pleased Srila Prabhupada the most, and we should conduct ourselves in a way that we can be a source of pleasure for Srila Prabhupada. And if we can somehow or other please Srila Prabhupada, then we're guaranteed to go back home, back to Goddess. Shri Radha Gopinath can't deny us. Text 25. Thus in great anxiety they all walked to Jagannath Puri, where Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu met them as usual. So now the devotees have arrived in Jagannath Puri. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went with them to see the Lord in the temple, and on that day he also took lunch in the company of all those devotees. As previously the Lord provided them all with residential quarters, and the next morning all the devotees came to see the Lord. When all the devotees came to the place of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they saw the same dog sitting a little apart from the Lord. So now they found the missing dog. Okay, so for a few days, this dog had gone missing. No one knows where this dog went. 10 people went out searching for the dog at night, and then again in the morning they went out searching. They couldn't find him. Now a few days later, suddenly they're seeing the same dog in Jagannath Puri, right next to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So then naturally all the devotees are completely astonished that there it is, the missing dog. The dog who was coming with us is here. Somehow or other he has reached Jagannath Puri by himself, and he's right next to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When all the devotees came to the place of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they saw the same dog sitting a little apart from the Lord. Furthermore, this is text 29, furthermore, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was throwing remnants of green coconut pulp to the dog. Smiling in his own way, he was saying to the dog, chant the holy names Rama, Krishna and Hari. So they're coming to take darshan Mahaprabhu, and they're surprised to see the missing dog right next to Mahaprabhu. Not only that, Mahaprabhu has a very nice fresh green coconut with him, and Mahaprabhu is taking out some pulp. The green coconuts, they have soft pulp inside. Mahaprabhu is taking out soft pulp from inside and throwing it to the dog, feeding the dog. Not only is Mahaprabhu personally feeding this dog, but smiling at the dog, Mahaprabhu is saying to the dog, chant the holy names Rama, Krishna and Hari. Text 30, seeing the dog eating the green coconut pulp and chanting Krishna, Krishna again and again, all the devotees present were very surprised. So not only this dog was personally eating from the hands of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but being instructed by Mahaprabhu, this dog was not barking, but this dog was also chanting Krishna, Krishna, Rama, Rama. So this is the amazing mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Text 31. When he saw, this text is very amazing. When you hear this, you'll be astonished. When he saw the dog sitting in that way and chanting the name of Krishna, Shivananda, because of his natural humility, immediately offered his obeisances to the dog, just to counteract his offenses to it. So this is the highly elevated humility of Shivananda Sen. Here's just an ordinary dog, who's just, Prabhupada's explaining, he was just an ordinary street dog. And somehow or other, by good fortune, he started following Sivananda Sain. And Sivananda Sain was compassionate upon his dog, and he allowed it to continue with him. Then the dog went missing, and now they're seeing the same missing dog with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu is feeding this dog coconut, and Mahaprabhu is asking this dog to chant Hare Krishna, chant Hare Rama, and this dog is chanting. When Sivananda Sain, he's seeing this scene of this dog personally present with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. What is Sivananda Sain's mood? What is his consciousness? He's thinking that, my God, this dog is such an elevated Vaishnava. He is personally being fed by the lotus palms of my Supreme Lord. How great must this dog be? How great of a Vaishnava this dog must be to be personally fed by the Lord and to be personally instructed by the Lord to chant Hare Krishna. This dog is no ordinary soul. This dog is a great Vaishnava. During the past few days, while this dog was traveling with me, I had probably committed so many offenses against this great Vaishnava. So to repent, what is Sivananda Sain doing? He is offering dandavats to the dog, begging forgiveness to this dog. That, please, my dear dog, you're a very great Vaishnava. You're personally getting the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. You're such a great elevated Vaishnava. I didn't know your elevated status. Over the past few days, I would have committed so many offenses against you, because of my inattention. One night, my servants, they didn't feed you cooked rice. Because of me, you underwent so much suffering. Please forgive my offenses. Please have pity on me. So this is the mood, this is the consciousness of Sivananda Sain. And the same consciousness is present amongst all the associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There's no ordinary devotees. Just by this one instance, we can just see, how elevated the level of consciousness, how humble they are, how tolerant they are, how compassionate they are, how kind they are. So it's completely unthinkable, the consciousness, the level which they are functioning on. But my Guru Maharaj explains that although these personalities like Sivananda Sain, Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, so on and so forth, although they seem, miles and miles away from us, although they seem like so far away, so distant from us, and we seem so tiny, insignificant, it feels like we can never do pure bhakti. There's so much of a gap. Although it seems like that, my Guru Maharaj says that if we just simply read these pastimes, if we simply hear these pastimes, what happens? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu being in our heart, he becomes very pleased, and he will start transforming our hearts, and he will start pushing us slowly, slowly to become also like these devotees. So when we're reading these pastimes of the humility of Sivananda Sain, we'll also slowly start cultivating that same humility to a certain extent. And like that, we'll also progress. So that's why my Guru Maharaj says that although these stories might seem far out, although the example of Prahlad Maharaj, a 5-year-old boy, being thrown, under the feet of elephants, being thrown from the side of a cliff, being thrown into a pit with poisonous snakes, and he's just completely oblivious, just chanting Hare Krishna, remembering Krishna, although it seems like so far out. Still, when we read these pastimes, when we appreciate Prahlad Maharaj's fearlessness, by appreciating that fearlessness of Prahlad Maharaj, we also start acquiring that quality. When we appreciate Sivananda Sain's humility, we'll also, in our heart, start slowly acquiring Sivananda Sain's humility. How? Because Krishna is sitting in our heart. When Krishna watches us, hearing pastimes of his pure devotees, when Krishna watches us appreciating the amazing qualities of his pure devotees, Krishna, he becomes very pleased. And being very pleased, Krishna blesses us with the boon of that same quality. So in this way, we can also slowly advance. Text 32. The next day, no one saw that dog, for it had obtained its spiritual body and departed for Vaikuntha, the spiritual kingdom. So this dog, he went back home, back to Godhead. Purport. This is the result of sadhu sangha, consequent association with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and promotion back home, back to Godhead. This result is possible even for a dog by the mercy of the Vaishnava. Therefore, everyone in the human form of life should be induced to associate with devotees by rendering a little service, even by eating prasadam. What to speak of chanting and dancing? Everyone can be promoted to Vaikuntha Loka. It is therefore requested that all our devotees in the ISKCON community become pure Vaishnavas, so that by their mercy, all the people of the world will be transferred to Vaikuntha Loka. So Prabhupada is explaining Just see the power of sadhu sangha. By the power of sadhu sangha, even a dog who just randomly comes in contact with a sadhu, immediately he's delivered, immediately he goes back home, back to Godhead. And then Prabhupada is saying that this is the responsibility of every single member in ISKCON, of every single member in Hare Krishna movement. What is the responsibility? Prabhupada is saying it is the responsibility of everyone in ISKCON community to become pure Vaishnavas, just like Sivananda is saying. Why? If all of us become pure Vaishnavas, like Sivananda is saying, then all those random karmis out there who somehow randomly come in contact with us, by the power of coming in contact with a devotee of Lord, they'll also get liberated, they'll also go back home, back to Godhead. In this way, Prabhupada is saying we can liberate the whole world. We can send the whole world back home, back to Vaikuntha. How? If every single person in the International Society of Krishna Consciousness takes upon himself the responsibility to become a pure devotee, then by himself or herself becoming pure devotee, whatever conditioned souls come in contact with him, they'll also be infused with bhakti, they'll also take up Krishna consciousness, and they'll also go back home, back to Godhead. In this way, Prabhupada is saying we can liberate the whole world. I'll read the line again. It is therefore requested that all our devotees in the ISKCON community become pure Vaishnavas, so that by their mercy, all the people of the world will be transferred to Vaikuntha Loka, even without their knowledge. Everyone should be given a chance to take prasadam and thus be induced to chant the holy names Hare Krishna and also dance in ecstasy. By these three processes, although performed without knowledge or education, even an animal went back to Godhead. So Prabhupada is saying we have three things. We have honoring prasadam, chanting and dancing. So we have to induce all the conditioned souls to take part in one of these three activities, either to chant about Krishna, read about Krishna, to sing about Krishna, or to dance in Krishna Kirtan, or to take prasadam. And Prabhupada is saying the power of these three things are so potent that even if one without knowledge does any one of these three things, he will go back home, back to Godhead. And Prabhupada is saying that was the case with this dog. This dog, he didn't understand the value of Krishna prasadam. He was just seeing Mahaprabhu, he's giving some nice coconut, this dog was just eating coconut from Mahaprabhu's hand. But because it was prasadam offered by the Supreme Lord, he went back to Godhead. So this, Prabhupada is saying, is the potency of prasadam, the potency of hearing and chanting about Krishna, the potency of dancing in Kirtan. Even if without knowledge, you're taking prasadam, even without knowledge, you're singing and dancing, Prabhupada is saying, even an animal went back to Godhead, what to speak of others. So we should all take responsibility upon ourselves to also share this message with others. Just like Prasannatma Prabhu, every week he's going out, Food for Life, to Newtown, and he's distributing prasadam. And all those people who are getting prasadam, they're getting purified, they're coming, every time they get one box of prasadam, they're coming closer and closer to Shri Shri Radha Gopinath. So their path back to God is already guaranteed, it's just simply a matter of time. Okay, we'll go next text. Okay, I think we'll stop here. This just ended. This is the last verse of this pastime of Sivananda Sen and the dog. Text 33 onwards, we'll talk about the pastimes of Mahaprabhu with Srila Rupa Goswami. So that will continue next week. Sri Caitanya Caritamrta ki jai, Jaguru Srila Prabhupada ki jai, entire Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol.